Hello, welcome to Black Men Speak. I'm your co-host, J.R. Stewart.
And good evening, everyone. I am your co host, Tommy Duncan. It is Wednesday night, 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time, and it's time for Black Men Speak.
That's right, every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central, and this is where you come to get information and to learn, and for us all to work together on solving some of the issues that affect the black community. Let's give a special shout out to Liquid for providing our theme music. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, and spread the word. And then also give us a like. Hit the like and the notification button to help us out. So, Tom, with that being said, who's our? Oh, one other thing before we get started, Tom. We do want to say for folks who watched the show last week, we tried to pre-record the show and stream it after the fact. That did not work out very well. We apologize. We had never done it before. We thought it was going to work, but we have some more work to do on that before we ever do it again. But let's hope that we will continue to be able to bring live broadcasts on a weekly basis. So, with that being said, Tom, why don't you introduce our guest and get us started?
All right. So, folks, if you have been with us for a while, you know that we made a commitment last year based
Yes,
upon some of our guests and our mothers in particular, especially those who are raising sons, to do something at least once a month
first Wednesday.
focused on young black men. So we are committed every Wednesday to focusing on a topic that addresses young black men and the families who are developing them into our leaders of the future. And so we have a special guest this evening, Elam King out of the ATL, who is a author, relationship coach, mentor, father, and brother of all trades and all backgrounds, who is going to be talking to us a little bit about what he's been doing and what he's learned. He has a couple of books that's coming out that we'll talk about. We were having some issues getting the video in, streaming video. So we do have an image of him, and hopefully we can get that resolved. But if not, he is still with us today. Elam, are you still there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir.
We can hear you very, very clearly. We
Man,
appreciate you joining us tonight. If we can't get the streaming video in, everybody at least knows what you look like. And you and I are in the Shaved Head Club, so we are brothers from
look,
another
I,
mother.
yes,
I,
sir.
I'll be
Hey,
joining you
listen,
guys soon. So,
listen. One day somebody said I had the little hairline that was going backwards. They was like, "Listen, let it go, dude.
that's where
Let,
I am right
let it
now.
go."
My hairline's starting to go back, and
Yes,
I'm trying
sir.
to hang on.
I love
Absolutely.
it.
So, what we're going to do tonight, the topic for our show tonight, what young black men must do and avoid developing a high achievement life. What young black men must do and also avoid. And we have someone who can speak a lot to that because he has been working in several different capacities with young men, in addition to being a father for a long time. So, we're going to have that conversation today. Of course, Jimmy and I are going to give our contributions because we've been talking about this for a long time. And mothers and fathers and families and grandparents who are out there trying to build our young men to be our future warriors and leaders. We have some special stuff for you this evening. So, Elam, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do, how you got involved working with young people and young men in particular, and then we'll let the conversation go from there.
Man, well, first of all, don't set me up like that because I don't know whether I can stay with all of that explanation. Right. So let's keep
We
that.
trust in you,
Oh
brother.
no,
We
you
trust
came
in
Keep that.
back out
you.
now. We in it now.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Keep the
we in it
expectations
now.
low.
So,
Okay.
Yes, sir.
But thank you so much, even this evening, for you guys even having me. So yes, Elam B. King, located here in Atlanta, Georgia. Started off somewhere in this life of following what they said: go to school and get good grades, and go to college and get a good
right.
job with benefits, and do exactly what they tell you that you're supposed to do. And so Elam went out here, and I just said, okay, however I can legally make the most amount of money is what I want to do. Right.
Okay.
Graduate at Hampton University back in '98. And so it was just went out into sales and just was like, okay, boom, right? So all my friends, they making like 40, 50,000, right? So
Hmm.
I'm 21 years old, I'm making like 90,000. So I'm rich, right? So,
Mhm.
so in the streets just doing whatever. And then, met my wife at the time, working in a call center. And let me date myself real quick. MCI.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And so, for 40% of the audience that don't know who MCI is, that's who Verizon currently is. They bought
Right.
them way back in the day. Anyway, so was doing this sales thing, making, doing this or whatever. And then somewhere along the line, things begin to change because I was not happy. I had the house and, the family and the cars and all this and that. But, you know, I always say there was a moment one day where I was sitting in my bed and I was working and my family was in the other room eating and they were just happy and plates are clanging and I'm just like, no, this is not it. You know what I'm saying? And so they were happy. They have their own bedrooms and bathrooms and everything. Okay, dad, you keep doing your thing. And I'm like, no. And so it wasn't until I hit a wall and God walked me through a couple of things. And so somewhere around 35, I said, wait a minute, let me just walk, let me just figure out this purpose thing. And let me just start praying a little bit more. And let me just start, building my relationship from a spirituality perspective. And so I became an author back in 2017 and wrote a book, Understanding a Man, Empowering Women with Tools for Lasting Relationships. And so because of the hardships and the things that I didn't do correctly inside of my marriage, I turned around and not only had some of that wisdom, but I interviewed 24 men about various topics of the heart, things that if they wanted to, if they have a daughter, what would they want her to know to empower her with a lasting relationship? So, because real quick, I didn't have a chance to interview the 3.5 billion men on the planet, but but see, if I wrote it myself, they'd have been like, okay, no, you just said that. So I had to interview just enough men to make your sisters be like, okay, well, we have to take what they're saying into consideration. Okay, so and so that put me really into the relationship realm. I'm also a relationship coach as well, so I work with couples, married, pre-marriage coaching, and so dating as well. And along the way, because my wife was a school teacher, she began to share with me different things that were happening inside of her Title One school, inside of some of the things that young black men, young men, period, just didn't know, some of the basics. And so I kind of took a look at some of the things that I thought that I knew, right, that I might have done wrong, right. And so I also took a look at some of the things that she was talking about. And so the forge forward there was two books. The first one was actually a collaboration with the Fearless Storytellers. And so that's a book that recently released. It's called When His Soul Cries. And so the men are sharing, just some tough things that they might have happened to walk through. It's an anthology of six other men, and along with myself. And then, so that's a book that's actually available right now. You can find that on elambking.com. And also, I interviewed 24 men about various topics as well. And that book that's forthcoming is called Understanding a Man: Memoirs of a Father to His Son. So let me breathe right there and stop right there and just that's it for me for 1 second.
Good deal. Now we appreciate that's good stuff, man. And we definitely appreciate it. And really for us, one of the things that we've learned, both of us being black men, I guess all of us being black men, but at some point in time, growing up as a young black man, trying to figure out things, and living in what some people call the yet to be United States of America. At some point in life, we all find out something different about growing up in my skin that's different than some of my colleagues that I go to school with. And Jimmy and I talk significantly on a lot of our shows about things that affect us as black men and things that affect us as young black men, in particular in our early days. And one of the things that we want to do is provide the tools and provide the information to ensure that our young black men have the information and the platforms available for them to build and lead a successful life. And so tell us a little bit about, obviously you being a father. I mean, that's the greatest responsibility in the world. And unfortunately, something that being in the life of your children, sons or daughters for that matter, is not the status quo as it was when we were coming up. And, we're dealing with some different situations now. We look at, what's going on in the school systems. Jimmy and I talk about this all the time, especially in large urban areas where, the graduation rates of young black men, 50% if you're doing good. If we look at, the what these so-called correction systems, jails and prisons throughout the country.
Right.
We're 13% of the population overall, black men being about 6.5% of the population, but we
Right.
fill about 40% of the population of jails.
Right.
Having a candid conversation about what it is we're doing and not doing that are getting those results, and how we change the narrative and turn the corner on that. So start off, if you could, by telling us about what are some of the, in your experience, institutional factors that are influencing the outcomes of our young black men.
Oh man, what y'all got an hour?
Yes, sir.
Um, so well, let's just start off and just keep it real of what people have finally brought to the surface is that a lot of this is systemic. Um, the educational system is doing exactly what it was designed to do. There's a movie that came out maybe about 10 years ago, and it's called Waiting on Superman. If anybody
Remember
hasn't
that.
seen it, I definitely want to advise people to go look at it. And just kind of takes a look at just kids just kind of operating inside of the school system. And, you got some that, more that were less fortunate that were not running into the school systems that they needed to. Right. And so, you had some graduation rates of some places in this country are in the 40 percentile.
Yes,
That
sir.
doesn't make any sense. Let's
Right.
start right there. Inside of the United States of America, there are pockets of the US where the graduation rate is 40 something percent,
Yes, sir.
right? So, like, we have a problem, right? We can't say third world, right? I don't and I don't even like to throw like too many stats because you could throw like 1,000 stats to people. Like, it kind of even doesn't even matter, right? Because we have Google. You can just go in and Google the percentage of students graduating and see what pops up inside of your city or inside of your local county or whatever, right? And so, with my grandmother was a school teacher. My mother was a school teacher.
Mhm.
My wife was a school teacher. My brother is a principal. I have a lot of love and a lot of understanding in this area. Me could never be a teacher. Goodness gracious. But I would start off with just the school system and how it is. Let's just think about it. All that stimulus money that popped out, right? What? 200 billion went to these schools. Where that money at? Okay. So we can
Jimmy,
even go with the
Jimmy,
now.
Jimmy, I think you are on mute, Jimmy. We can't hear you.
We,
Okay,
we,
you're
we can
right. I
go.
was on
Okay,
mute.
there we go. Perfect. You're back.
Yes, nobody knows where that money went. So you're right.
Yeah. What's that? Where that money go? You know what I'm saying? We got 50 states, right? 4 billion could have gone to each state. $4 billion, right? Because it's supposed to go where pockets of things that needed help, not the stuff that was already doing what it do. So where is it? Right, you have school teachers who are at a space right now, and I'm starting off here in the educational system because I'm just saying that this system right here is completely broken, right? And then you have COVID that came along that broke it even more, right? And so you have teachers that don't even want to teach anymore,
Well,
right?
Brother
Inside of
King,
it.
you're
Mhm.
keep preaching. You're right on. And this is why I don't understand why we're not more upset about this corrupt system that's not educating our kids.
At all, right? This is not the 80s where like mom and dad are broken, but they can send their kid to school and their
Hmm.
kid can like play a sport and not have to spend $2,000, right? They can be in a club after school and maybe only have to spend $20, right? Now you got to fund everything across the board, even with sports. So what about when people can't afford stuff like that? You know what I'm saying? Education is not about education; it's about money. And so that's why even in the movie when they were talking about superintendents, that's why they only have 18 months shelf life because they actually probably come in wanting to change the system and it's broken, right? So then they're just like, you know what, let me back up. But that's just the first entity. If I just had to answer your question, T, with regard to what is some of the entities that's out there, we can just start with education. Let's go into the household, right? Okay, 37% of black families are raised in two-parent homes. You can say what you want. Okay, I know that there are some single parents that have done what they do's and did what they did, and they've raised some amazing kids. And we got celebrities that were great. You know what I'm saying? From Usher to a lot of other people that are out there that single parents did what they did. But let's look at this. If only 37% of our black families right now are being raised in two-parent households, whereas children who come up in two-parent households, their self-esteem is higher.
Yes, it
right?
is.
They end up they end up not being incarcerated as much, right?
That's
They
right.
end up producing,
Alcoholism,
be
drugs, all of
alcohol,
that.
all
Yes,
of the spaces of, we'll just say, the great things in life. They have a higher probability of getting to that, right? And so, 37%. Let's look at that.
well,
What do you do? What do you do with a 37% chance and try to get it right? What do you do?
other
What do
than
you go out there
baseball,
to intentionally do?
yeah, other than baseball, that
Exactly.
37% is a
When
dismal
somebody
number.
says, "Okay, hey, invest this money and you have a 37% chance of getting it
Yeah,
right," are you going to invest it?
no,
No.
Right? But we have people out here, and this is what we have to say to our young people, that, you know what, and I'm going to just talk to my young men right now. I know you want to get your rocks off at time, and we'll talk about some of this later on, probably in the call right now. But you got to think about it. When you are out here sowing your seed somewhere, that's the person that's probably going to raise your children. Where's she from? What's her pedigree? Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to really look at some of this, even the choices that we're making, then, of the women that we're choosing
that's correct.
to pollinate with, right? You're not even making the right decision, and so that one night stand or whatever, that person has what? A what, let's do the math. A 63% chance of raising your kid, and we just slanging seeds out here? Okay, I'll digress. I'm sorry.
No, no, no.
Oh
We
no,
keep it
no, no.
real
You're
here.
right
You don't
on.
have to be
Yeah.
politically correct on this
No,
show.
Elam, one thing that you will have to understand is we're not here to entertain people.
Yeah,
We make
Hmm.
that upfront
this is not the
with
Breakfast
everybody.
Club.
And we have to really look at this. You know what I'm saying? Like, and
So
here's the thing. And I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say this by saying that I know how you're feeling, and I know what you're doing. You're talking about the Playboy from the Himalayas, did all that. I'm in a fraternity. I'm a Kappa. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
mhm.
slang it from here to there. I get it, gentlemen. But let me tell you something. The one of the things in the book Memoirs of a Father to a Son, the reason why that we're doing that book is because it's our way of reaching back to say, look, I get it. And I would have done, and I've done the same thing. But let me tell you something really quickly. Like, put the girls on the shelf real quick, dude, and get some emotional intelligence,
Yes, and
right?
maturity.
Understand, get some self awareness. I
Hmm.
know this is not the sexy thing, it's not, right? But in order for us to begin to really do what we do out here, and in order for you to have, I'm telling you, grown people's fun is way better than what you see as a young person's fun. It's way better, right? When you have some change in your pocket to really go rock, it's way more fun than whatever you think that you're going to do between 13 and 18. I promise you. You can't find a grown man that won't tell you any different to
Right.
say that the fun that you have between 13 to 18 is worth you saying, you know what, I'm going to rock this out and then I'm going to try to go be great later on. Like, it's not worth it. If you
Sure.
sit down for about 4 to 5 years, and we'll take this to Blues Clues with Nickelodeon. If you sit on down and figure you out, because that's what this life is really all about. Like, you won't walk around later on in life with Blues Clues just trying to bump around and figure some stuff out, right? So I'm sorry. Let me stop right
No,
Oh
there.
no,
no,
you're
no, you're
good.
good.
No,
We're good.
you're
We're
good.
good. We're good. Because the reality of it is, we have to talk to the young men in a language that they understand. And they look at us as
Yes,
like,
sir.
oh man, you're my dad's age or
Yeah.
whatever it is. You don't really know what's going on. It
Hmm.
was different when you was growing up. But the thing about it is there is nothing new under the sun. But
Nothing.
let me tell you, don't wait until you get older. Just like, man, I wish I would have listened. Dude, if I would have made this turn or that turn, I would have this much. I would be doing this much more. I would have this much back in my pocket. I have this much back in my.
Dude.
The
What?
reality of it is, we were all young men at some point in time, and we all went through some of the same issues as it pertains to women, as it pertains to respect, as it pertains to being able to get, what you feel is something out of life. And the reality of it is, Brother Elam, delayed or deferred gratification and making a commitment now to what's
Mm,
going to happen in the future is real talk that is very difficult to understand when you are
right.
at a very young age, because all you know is that you got hormones raging. You
Right.
have these girls out here who let's be very clear. There is, if they're just as, if not more aggressive than the boys were when we were growing
Yes.
up, and they're just throwing stuff at
Well,
you.
they've been
And so,
misled, Tom.
and so the young man said, "Okay, well, what am I supposed to do? Turn this
Yeah,
down?
I mean
What's going on?"
the feminist
So
movement and the now movement have really misled the black woman. She needs to walk away from that and leave it alone because it's not her friend. And let me say this, Brother King, maybe you could speak on it. Um, One, these young brothers need to understand that the right woman is not found, she's made. And you have to be the rock for her insecurity. Most women are emotional, so you have to be logical, you have to be reasonable, and you have to be a rock solid because a lot of these women are insecure. They made some really horrendous decisions about men they've involved in their life, and every bad man that comes in their life makes them a little bit more insecure after that. And if you're insecure and they're insecure, then you're in for a bad situation. And if you can't be the rock for her to help convert her, to get her out of that insecurity by showing her that you're going to be the solid piece in her life, entity in her life, then leave it alone. Do not bring another child. Don't bring a child into the world in that situation. That's just being trifling on both of y'all parts.
um here's the thing, and so you're right with what you just said with regard to, the right woman is found and not made.
No, just the
And I want
reverse. It's made and not found.
yeah, it made and not found.
Hmm.
And so I want to take that statement for a second, and I want to share with here's a cheat code for any young man. I want to give you a cheat code really quickly, right? The secret, because women always ask me this question like, how do you what do men want, right? What are some of the things that men want? I always get that question asked to me, right? And and if I had to flip that for a second and talk to the men, um what women want is you. Walk with me for a second. What they want is you. The challenge in that word of what they want is you is that you spend more time in lanes and in areas that is not you. And hold on. Okay, hold on. Let me download this real quick. Okay.
And I'm
The
going to ask,
number one way, the number one way that we're going to help to move our communities forward and move our families forward is by our young men and our men period, but our young men understanding that the number one person that's going to be in it that's going to be in a relationship is yourself. You're the number one person. And if you haven't found yourself first, it's actually not okay to go try to partner and commit to somebody else when you haven't found yourself first.
Great.
So,
what does that mean though?
okay, I'm glad that you asked.
And we're talking with, in a language that makes sense to someone who is in their teens, early 20s.
Mhm. Okay. So, what that means is that what's going to be portrayed out here are different things of whether you want to see it of from a success perspective of this person is just overnight, they put this post up and they're just great doing that, or this person does t-shirts, or this person does, this person's an attorney, this person's is an entertainer or whatever, right? You see all these things out here, and those are all distractions because along the way it's pulling you from exactly the direction of where you want to walk in and where you want to go in. So I would just ask our young men to just ask yourself this question. If all, if everything was taken care of in your life or whatever, if you had to do something all day from 9 to 5, right? What would you do all day for free, right? And that is going to begin to give you a glimpse into the space of what is something that you want to do and what your purpose and what your passion is in life. Does that make sense?
Now, what if they say if everything was taken care of and I could do anything from 9 to 5,
Right.
I'd play Madden from 9 to 5.
No, I
Okay.
can't play. Well, very few people make a living playing Madden, so you have to be
Well,
No, no,
realistic.
no. That wasn't the question. He said if everything was
I
no, and I'm
taken
glad
care
you
of, you
said
could
that.
do
I
anything.
And I'm glad you
understand, but
said
I'm
that.
just saying that with that, you have to be reasonable, though.
Hmm.
I mean, there's a very
I,
low
I
likelihood you're gonna make any kind of living playing Madden, sitting on that couch 8 hours a day.
but the assumption is not. The assumption is that everything is
But
good financially.
But
here's the great thing about that. Here's the great thing about that
okay,
question. It starts a talk track
right,
Mhm.
because here, what you're gonna say when you're three is not what you're gonna say when you're gonna talk about maybe fire trucks when you're three, right? Or you want to be, you want to be the superhero, or you want to be Black Panther, right? When you're three or four, right? But when you switch to 7 or 8, maybe it might be, maybe it might be I don't know, a teacher, right? Maybe it might be something that's on social media, right? Okay, so you keep going, and so what are you going to say at 12? Right? What are you going to say at 15? What are you going to say at 18? What are you going to say at 20? What are you going to say at 25? Because here's the thing: once you get grown, man, how are you going to? If you're asking yourself that question at 30, right? You got a talk track, right? And so it's creating the habit. It's no differently how they say of saving money. It's not that you have to start off saving big things. The same thing with credit. It's not like you have to start off hitting the big points on your credit, right? You can start with the lower things and then you slowly move up. So it's about creating a talk track. So I'm more of the type of person of, even inside of the space of, you just said, Tommy, when you were just talking about what can be, what might resonate in the minds of young people. Okay,
Right.
start asking yourself that question. What would you like to do all day?
I would like to go back to something you said earlier that resonates in my life or a long time ago, um, with chasing dollars and salaries.
Right.
Right.
I mean, when I came out of school, out of the military, my first engineering job was at Texas Utility. I made $24,000 a year as a junior engineer until I found out what other engineers were making. Then I had to make that number. I kept chasing 30,000, 50,000, 70,000. And then, people saying, well, if you're not making 100,000, you're not making six figures, then you're nothing. Until I made 100,000. I still didn't feel like something. And I kept chasing numbers until the day came when I was making 250,000. I'm not trying to be a smart or anything. That's a nice little chunk of change. But even with $250,000 salary, I was not happy. I mean,
And
I had
see,
to, I had to look at my life and examine, like, what is it that I want to do, because I'm making money, I have material stuff, but I'm not happy in life. So I had to make some changes to give up the money and be happy. So you talked about that a little bit earlier. Maybe can you
yes.
go back and revisit that danger of chasing dollars?
Right. And I would add to that, and I understand exactly where you're coming from, because I guess we all have to figure out in life, and being men in particular,
Huh?
what is truly enough. And then you have to go back and have that conversation when you get what you think is meaningful to you, whatever dollar figure that is. Elam, you were talking about that earlier today when you were saying, hey, your peers are making this much, I'm making this much, I'm balling this. Like, but wait a minute, this isn't solving all of my problems. What is it that young men, and then let's have this conversation, if they start having this conversation with themselves earlier in life, life will be more meaningful, life will be more fruitful? Because I would agree with you, Jimmy. I mean, there are folks who are making millions of dollars who are still throwing themselves out of a window, God
Right.
forbid, but it happens. And so as young men, Elam, from your experience, what are the conversations and the decisions that young men have to start making earlier in life to make figuring out the meaning of life to them? What is relevant?
That's what
What
you
is
want.
meaningful?
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh man, it's so hard within this conversation because there's so many different aspects, and maybe we need to have a
But if we
part one and
simplify,
part two.
but if we simplify,
Um,
where do we start?
but what the first start is, well, chapter two in my book, it says, the question that I asked the men was, which would you rather do, focus on your purpose or
Hmm.
focus on getting money, right?
Okay.
Now, let me give you the demographic. These are men that range from probably mid 20s
Hmm.
all the way to 60. All right. So, from mid 20s to 60. And so I'm asking them that question because, with regard to of what something that I went through, of just focusing on just getting this money, and
Hmm.
whether and knowing the lack of satisfaction that I had inside of that. But I could just give my story. But let me just talk to some other leaders that are out here. One of the individuals that is in the book. If you look on your license right now,
Hmm.
right? If you go to your license and pull it up, you'll see a name on there, Spencer Moore, right? He's one of the individuals that's speaking within this book. Um, the attorney for George Floyd, Justin Miller. He's somebody that's speaking within this book. I have different people that I'm connected with. That it's not only just individuals that are just out here just shaking and moving, but it's individuals out here that are really shaking and moving. If that makes sense.
Mhm.
So just to kind of give you the okay, well, yeah, you can try to go get this money, but let me share with you that focusing on your purpose, focusing on walking in the space of what ignites that fire within you, that down the road is what we now understand is what's most important. But see, when we were coming up, it was more pushing you just to go to college, right?
Right.
Because most of our people that were for us, they didn't go to college. So that was
Correct.
like if you go to college, it's gonna do it, everybody. And then, corporate ladder and climate, and then we went out here and we figured out, no, that's a lie, right? That's not really how it really is. Could you do that? Yeah, you can start your own, unless your uncle is already on the board and can
Hmm.
kind of get you up in there, right? And so it's really more of whether you want to choose corporate, whether you want to choose military, whether you want to choose entrepreneurship. It doesn't matter what route you choose, just choose a route. And it's okay to dabble inside of each area as well,
Right.
right?
That is
But
true.
just there's not one way to win. There's not just one way to win out
Correct.
here, right? But the way that you will find the most value is by what makes your heart sing, no matter what it is. If you want to make doorknobs, make doorknobs.
And
I
be
don't
the
care what
best
people
at
say,
it. Yes.
and be the best doorknob maker
Maker.
out there.
That's right.
If you like concrete and you want to go be a construct man, put them boots on, put the green jacket on, and go do the construction. Right? You
Right.
want to be an architect? Go draw. Right? You want to be a teacher? Go do it. What makes you happy is what's going to make your life sing. It's going to help you to
That
live
is,
longer.
and that
It's
is
going to
key.
help
That
you
is
to
true.
to produce to produce a stronger generation. So we got to get away from just thinking that getting this money is the most important,
Right.
because everybody who got it, and I know a lot of people who got it, they're in my inner circle, right? And they're just like, yo, it's not about that. But we just don't know that because we haven't had it. And I'm not saying that I had all of it, but I've had enough of a taste of it to say, nah, that ain't it.
That's right.
No,
That's not it.
that's not it.
It'll leave you hollow.
No,
So
these are very, 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 very good points, and I appreciate you sharing some of your insights on that. I'm going to kind of go back to a conversation that we were having a little bit earlier. We were talking about some of the factors that are influencing the outcomes of our young black men. We're talking about scholastic achievement. We're talking about professional achievement. We're talking about let's be, I guess, real talk. When we look at the number of black men that start as young boys who are swelling the roles of our correction systems, or if we look at the number of men, young and old, who are still living at home, being codependent on their parents, long beyond their time. If we're talking straight, and if I'm listening to what some of the sisters are saying, let's kind of talk about the images
Okay, Tom,
of black men.
you're being kind. Living with
Okay,
their parents. No, living with mama. Let's
okay.
be real here. A lot of them are living with mama. These women are enabling them to be
Mhm.
sorry and trifling. So no, living with mama sometimes because daddy was in the house, he wouldn't put up with it for too long.
Right. What makes the difference? And I can't say, I mean, there's a difference between you go, you start living life, things happen. Sometimes you fall on your butt, you have to get yourself back up. But there's a difference between, you know what, I need a place to rebuild, and maybe that means going back home for a short period of time, especially if you're young, you don't have the foundation yet before you rebuild, versus someone who unfortunately is perpetually codependent. What do you see as the difference in the decisions and the influences between those who, Elam, are making it happen, and for those who, for whatever reason, just continue to spin on the, I would say, on the proverbial rat race. And it looks like Elam has fallen off, so we will give him a couple of minutes to join back in. And so, Jimmy, we will continue the
Okay.
conversation until Elam jumps back on, Jimmy. And you know, I have these conversations with young men and young women and mothers, and you know, quite frankly, a lot of mothers do a fantastic
They
job
do,
of
Tom.
raising men by themselves in spite of the circumstances. But on the other hand, you know, talking to some mothers, talking to some young women, it's like a lot of young men, too many,
Far too
I
many.
think far too many are codependent
Hmm.
on their mothers, and then they transfer that codependence on to young women. And the
Yes.
question I was going to have for Elam when he gets back is, what is it that makes the difference for young men who turn out to be independent? Elam, you back? Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you
He's-
guys hear me? I mean,
Good deal.
the devil busy.
No problem. No
Not a
problem.
problem.
So the question was, what is it that you see is the difference
Right.
between those young men
Hmm.
who are independent, who figure out how to make it happen? It may not be at the time that they want, but it's on God's time, versus those who are perpetually codependent.
What do I see as the difference between those who
The
you
factors
basically
that are
saying though?
the factors that are contributing to our young men who grow into older men who are perpetually codependent, who cannot just seem to get it together, versus those men who may fail 20, 50 times,
But
but
keep trying.
they're going to
Keep
continue to
trying.
grind until they get it right.
Well, um, I would say that there's a book that's out there, and I want those who are listening to write this down. There's a book by an author, Napoleon Hill.
Yes, we know Napoleon
Maybe,
Hill.
yeah, okay. So he wrote the infamous book, Think and Grow Rich, right?
Hmm.
Mhm.
He wrote what I feel like is next to the Bible, like right after the Bible. This is the next book that you should read, okay? And it's called Outwitting the Devil, right? And it was written actually back in the 1930s during the Great Depression by Napoleon Hill. And it was so in depth that his wife did not even want him to put the book out because she felt like that the government and that different entities, the educational system, the churches would all be mad at him because what he did was this is not demonic.
Mhm.
Before I say this, so nothing but church going people read this, if you will. But he basically he meditated and he had a conversation with the devil, and he basically asked the devil some questions because he's like, okay, well, how do you get us in this life, right? And so and so he wanted to know what are ways that we can beat you, right? And so one of the things that he talked about is definiteness of purpose. And he was just like, basically, the one thing that I cannot stop you, if you find your purpose and you go after it, I can't stop you. He said, I own 98 out of every 100 people. There are two other people that keep running and keep going, and those are the two people who go to God. And so God can have those two people, but I got the other 98 because what I do is I put stuff in front of them and I take it away, and I put it in front of them and I take it away, and after a while they stop and they don't
Hmm.
keep running. So the difference in that question that you just asked me, Tommy, with regard to what's the difference of what people do, you have the two that keep going
Mhm.
and you got the 98 that stands still. And the one thing that I always say to myself is that, you know what, imagine yourself 2 minutes before you died, and standing around the room are all of the yous that you were supposed to be.
Mm.
Okay. So this is you looking at you. So there's no excuses, right? Because this is you, right? So nobody else can see this, just you. Okay. And they said, we came to you and only you could make us happen. And now we're going to die. That is something that I sit on my mind with regard to makes me get up and keep going, as you said, and get up and keep going and get up and keep going. Because I know that my goal is to make the devil give up on me so I can be the two. Because he's after the 98, and that's what I'm not going to be.
I'm going to go read that book. Thank you for the
Yeah,
suggestion. But
absolutely.
I don't have to meditate to talk to the devil. I talk to him almost every day. I call them white liberals. You know,
Oh, Lord have mercy.
that have destroyed my people's life. But
Right.
I'm going to go read the book though. But yeah, I talk to him on an ongoing basis. But I do want to comment that what you were saying, I call that training fleas. And if anybody knows,
Yes.
you put fleas in a jar, you put the top on it. They'll jump and they'll hit their heads, and then they'll get to a point where they'll continue to jump but not hit their heads. At that point, you can take the lid off, and even though they can jump out of the jar and be free, they won't. They'll only jump
Right.
high enough not to hit their what they think is the block over them. So yeah, the devil does that to us all the time. You're right. I mean, those blocks are put in there, but if you don't continue to push through that, what you
Right.
think are obstacles, because sometimes they're real, and let's face it, sometimes they're just mental. They're virtual. They're not real. You know, people make you think that you can't walk around the corner. And if you believe them, then you can't walk around the corner. You know, so but you make a very
Let
good
me
point. You want to be that too that actually just continues to push through.
let
You
me
said,
add
go ahead, Elam.
let me add just to that point of what you're saying about obstacles. And so this is just a transparency. Let me just give my 1.5 minute version about me. Remember, I was out here just trying to get money as much as possible, been in sales and doing my thing. Somewhere around 2015, okay,
Hmm.
which is about 7 years ago, somebody said, "You know what,
Right.
Elam, you should write a book." And I was just like, "What?" It was like, "You should write a book." I was like, "Well, nobody's gonna read my book. I'm the one that had infidelity in my marriage. I'm the one that there was a lot of promiscuity, we'll just say, throughout my life.
Hmm.
So there are outside children, that so why is anybody going to pay attention to me? That doesn't make any sense. But what I learned later on is that God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies you, excuse me, he calls you, and then he qualifies you. So, and the reason why that I want to say that, and that's for whether my grown folk or whether it's for my young folk, because at the end of the day, whatever you can't, don't be your worst enemy
Right.
with regard to the direction that you want to go in, right? Don't think that you're not good enough, because here's the thing: without the trials and tribulations that I went through, the obstacles actually made me, and it made me say do something crazy that I never did in life. I started off just trying to get as much money that I wanted to do for myself. Now I'm like, let me go help somebody maintain their relationship, because I know if they maintain their relationship correctly, their money's going to be a lot better. And if their money's going to be a lot better, you know what I'm saying? Plus their relationship, that's going to give a what? A healthier family. That's a better what? Community. Let
Right.
me go add my piece. That's the talent that was given to me. So when people listen to me, sometimes they say, okay, well, wow, how did you come up with this and how did you come up with that? Well, you know what? I'm going to be the Michael Jordan of relationships. I don't need to be Michael Jordan on the court. That was what he was given his
Correct.
talent for,
Mhm.
right? So that's what Obama was given his talent to be the president, right? Martin Luther King was given his talent to be the orator and civil rights. What is your talent? Go as hard as possible for that area. And here's the thing, that's what makes you get back up, Tommy. That's what makes you get back up, Jimmy.
Right.
Because if it's in you, you cannot stop getting back up. It's only when it's not in you and you pick something that's really not of you, you will put it down because you're like, yo, I'm not really feeling this stuff.
That's correct. That's right.
So there's something that you said, and if we break this down and peel back the onion, it's very simple. I'm hearing a couple of different things. One, find your purpose. Two, pursue your purpose. Three, eliminate the distractions.
Yes, sir.
It's very, very, very simple. I mean, and we've been talking about this for 40, 45 minutes. We got about 15 minutes, so we got to get to the do's and the avoids, or the do nots.
Hmm.
But you said something very, very poignant and provocative, yet powerful. Find your purpose,
Hmm.
pursue your purpose without distraction, eliminate and overcome all distractions. Doesn't mean that you're not going to fall on your butt.
Right.
Doesn't mean that you're not going to hit brick walls. It doesn't mean that you're not going to run into folks who are going to tell you what you can't do. Continue to find your purpose, pursue your purpose, eliminate all distractions, and you look within, because of course, you know, we pray, we meditate, we think of a greater power that is without us, when in fact it is within us that we have a greater power.
That is
We just
correct.
have to understand and recognize the power, the God that is within us. Once we unleash that, then we're on a whole different plane, having a completely different conversation. Let's spend the next 10 minutes on what the do's and the don'ts, which would be the avoids. We want to,
Oh,
hey
there we
man,
go.
we finally
Look at
got you.
that.
Are you
Brother
kidding me?
King in the
Are
house.
you
Dude,
15 minutes left? Are you kidding me?
What did you do?
What
Look
happened?
at
listen, I was just sitting here playing around with it, and I was just like, click, click.
Oh my goodness. All right,
All right,
All right.
let's
Brother
spend
King
about
in the
10 minutes.
house.
Spend 10 minutes on
I
what
wasn't going to be wearing this, but just shout out
hey,
to my cheap fans. Oh
hey
gosh,
man, we you know
No
you have our
problem.
you have our condolences this year, but it'll always be next year, man. I was rooting for him too.
terrible, terrible.
Let's talk about what young black men must do.
Right.
Top three things, what they must avoid, and then we want you to spend at least 5 minutes about what you have coming up, because you have a couple of books that people need to know about. Let's talk about the dudes. Top three things.
Well, the number one thing, as we've been talking about, is purpose.
Mhm.
Yes.
And figuring out that area of why are you here. If we spend the time in that area, I promise you it's going to it's almost like I was talking about a punishment for my daughter, for some of the stuff that she was going through with regard to school, right?
Hmm.
And I said, okay, well, you know what, if we're going to take this away, we have to put something in there, because where is that energy going to go? So the energy that she was going to give to TikTok and being on social media all day, what is she going to do with that
That's a
energy,
good
right?
point.
So we have to put something there, right? So
Right.
come on, parents, when you take something away, you got to put something in there, because that energy is going to go somewhere, right? And so, if I could just if I could just get in my DeLorean and go back to your future, young man, I'm going to share with you that the pleasure that you're going to get from even walking in the space of what your purpose is and what you really love to do in this life far supersedes
That is
anything
correct.
between 13 and 18 that I say 13 and 20, 13 and 30, right? It far exceeds it. If you go towards that, I'm telling you, I closed the second largest deal for the number one telecom company in the world. I'm just going to leave it like that, right? That was a huge deal for a company that, if I said the name, some of y'all have their workout pants,
Mm,
right?
gotcha.
Okay, so it was a huge deal, right? Millions of dollars. There is nothing bigger than when somebody texts me and says thank you for saving my marriage. Far supersedes that. You text me that, and I find out that I saved a marriage. I find out that a child wanted to go to college. I find out that somebody found their purpose. Far exceeds that deal that I closed,
There you go.
right? And so, if I just had to go really quickly, secondly, I want to say spirituality. Whatever deity that you serve under, maximize that relationship,
Hmm.
right? Whatever it is, maximize that relationship and make it a relationship, not just pray and just no, like pray with purpose. Tithing is real. I didn't know about it. If I had to pick up one thing as a kid, tithing, right? Even if it's $1, tithe, right? And the last thing I would say is emotional intelligence. Ooh, that one right there.
Now explain that in language that a young person could understand.
I have a 20-year-old son who, in the past 4 to 5 years, glory, hallelujah. um, if I had to say how his interaction and communication was something that was special, I'm gonna say to you like this: there's a book, if you want to get it, young men. It's by Dr. Luann Brizendine. All right, Brizedine. Her first name is Luann, right?
Okay.
And she wrote a book called The Male Brain, right? She wrote a book called The Male Brain, and she wrote a book called The Female Brain. And what she does is she takes you from the time that the sperm met the egg, all the way to you're 80 years old, and how the different thought processes and the things that you walk through. And so, in reading that type of book, it helps us as parents understand of how, as you as a teenager, why you might be secluded, why you might be sleeping, what are the really better times that you need to study throughout the day. The different hormonal balances. Gentlemen, you're getting the biggest burst of testosterone in your life between 13 and 18.
That's right.
So the biggest burst in your life comes right now, up until I think that you're 20, and I think it starts to taper
So
off.
it's
So
taper
that's
off at
why,
that point. That's right.
yes. So that's why 21, 20, we can start talking to you a little bit more. But all before then, your dad went from being superhero to zero, or your parents went from superhero to, what parent is not going to agree with me?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because now you know everything. So now it helps us to understand that you are a human, and we actually went through it too. And then it helps you to understand that you are, you're real, right? And so just something like that, of just reading and understanding. That's what's going to be the separation factor of you reading. And with Audible being out here right now, I want to encourage you, if you can't sit down, gentlemen, and read Audible. If it wasn't for Audible, I would be of the whoever that's really ignorant, put me like behind them, because that would be me if it was not for Audible. Because I'm
Oh
not
no,
going to sit down and
Audible's
read
great.
anything.
Yeah, Audible's a great plan. Now I like to
I'm
read.
not reading anything.
I like to read books, but I do Audible too.
I sit down in 5 minutes, I'm going to sleep. Okay. But I can listen to a book, right? And then I listen to it 2, 3 times for understanding, because you only really pick up 30% of the information anyway.
And you know
So,
what, Elam? Let me go old school.
mhm,
You said purpose, spirituality,
Bush.
emotional intelligence.
Right.
I'm gonna do something for y'all, and it may work for some, it may not work for others. That our parents tell us: if you don't understand, go look it up.
Go look it up. That's right.
I don't know if they have dictionaries anymore. I know they got Google, no more encyclopedias. But if you need to figure something out, research, look it up.
in the information overload society, we are becoming like weaker and weaker in that capacity.
Yes.
And so the only thing that I can say is this: listen, how can I, God, let me make sure I say this correctly, because I don't want to offend anybody. Um, Listen, everybody's not going to be wealthy.
Correct.
Everybody is not going to be great. Everybody is not going to have success, right? But here's the thing: the most expensive and the highest area of information and goals and greatness is in the graveyard.
Yes. And I know this
That's where it
personally.
is.
And before the graveyard, the jail.
Okay. And that just like the example that I gave earlier with regard to standing around that room, like, I'm not going to let that happen to me. I'm going to be the two.
Right.
I'm good enough to be the two. But here's the thing: so are you. It's
Right.
just a decision that you make. And if I had to go in a DeLorean and go back to your future and share with you that the level of joy that you have, whether you're a grown man or young man, of walking in the space of what you're called to do, there is no orgasm, there is no check that's bigger than that feeling. And I haven't even had the biggest of the biggest check. I'm just saying that there's nothing that can beat that feeling of walking in your purpose. And
Right.
so if you begin to start focusing on that now, young man, immeasurable.
That is true. And
Do we need to do
that's
we
what we
need
don't
to
teach our young kids though. They don't understand
right.
that.
Absolutely. I think that was brilliant.
Hmm.
Let's kind of talk through a couple of the avoids if we can. What would the avoids be or the don'ts be? Because sometimes you have to deal. You've been in sales before. You're either chasing gold or running away from German shepherds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Jimmy, go ahead, Jimmy.
I was gonna say just don't make life decisions when your all of your blood is not in your brain. If it's in other places and you can't think straight, that's not the time to be making life decisions.
I get it.
Yes.
So I guess in that point, I'll reference what I also learned in Outwitting the Devil, right?
Okay.
And so he asked the devil, okay, what are the ways that you get people? Like, how do you come after people? And he said three things. He said food,
Okay.
sex, and the ability to not keep your mouth shut. He said
Mm,
you can tie everybody's demise to one of those three things. And so he went into explaining it. He said, let's think about it with food. He said that's one of the bigger ones because if you think about it, he says some people's intestines smell worse than a city sewer.
mm, okay.
Um, and that if you eat the wrong thing,
Hmm.
then you're not going to have the ability and the energy to go do what you need to do. So if I stop you by just allowing you to stop yourself, then you're not going to go out and bless somebody else, which is going to bless somebody else, which is going so if I stop you, I might stop
A chain reaction. Yes.
So
a
we're
hundred
talking.
people.
So we're talking about your health, basically.
So your health,
Right.
food, we could go to food,
Right.
right? Sex, right? How many people have thrown their lives away?
Yeah.
From a disease perspective, from
Yes.
a relational perspective, from a relational meaning that we boys and that you might have stepped with somebody that I was used to mess with. Now we not friends no more. Same thing with girls that happens, right? Somebody, or you be with somebody that might shatter your world and take you in a wrong direction or spiral down or god forbid take your life or something like that, right? So
Yes.
you can tie a lot of people's demise. I mean, we always see it in the entertainment world, right?
Hmm.
Mm,
So
Right,
Brother
what they did.
King,
Hmm.
somebody sent us a comment on the chat line. Um, he wanted you to give the name, the title of the book again. So I'm not sure which book. Could you mention a few? But
Yeah.
maybe could you just the last two or three that you mentioned?
absolutely. And thank you very much, Vincent, for asking that question. Also,
Yes.
I want to give a shout out to Brother Asar, who is one of our faithful contributors as
Yes.
well. So I think it may have was it the book by the sister Luann?
Luann Brizendine.
Okay.
Brizendine. So Brizendine.
Okay.
All
Okay,
right.
and that is the male
Um,
brain and the female
That
that
is
is
the
the
brain.
male
male
brain and
brain and the
female
and the
brain.
female
And
Yes.
then
brain.
the other
Yes,
book
it
was
is.
from Napoleon Hill, which is Outwitting the Devil.
Outwitting
Yes,
the devil.
outwin the devil. When I say that, if you could, if I could take my junk, oh Lord Jesus. Okay, so this is okay. So this, all right. So she's talking right now, but can you see it like Luann? Like
Okay.
that's her
Mm,
right
yeah,
there. All right. See.
gotcha.
Okay.
All right. All right.
It's
Can y'all
blurred a
see
little
that?
bit. There we go.
There you go.
LOUANNBRIZENDIND.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yes,
Right.
gotcha.
All right. So that's that right there. Um, So yeah, that's she wrote the male brain and the female brain. I want to encourage all females to read the female brain. I want to encourage men to read the female brain so you can understand who you're about to be with, right?
Mm,
And what their thought processes are and how they think and how it's hormonally based,
Hmm.
right? So even for my gentlemen that are older, never mind. Okay, I'm sorry. Uh, I'm gonna go. Like you don't want me to go. Like, we got another hour. I'm gonna go on that. But the other book was "Outwitting the Devil"
mm,
by Napoleon Hill.
I'm going to go read that tomorrow.
And so I think that that's the number two most read book on the planet as of like 10 years ago. Because I was in an organization that told us that it was the number two most read book maybe like a decade ago.
Wow. Okay.
mm.
Outside of it was the Bible and then Napoleon because every millionaire and billionaire has read Think and
Uh,
Grow Rich.
okay.
Right.
And so he also wrote Outwitting the Devil, which in my opinion, it needs to be the Bible, Outwitting the Devil, the male brain and the female brain, and then my book,
Of course, your
Gotcha.
book.
Understanding a Man. You
Tell,
know what I'm
tell,
saying?
tell, tell us about your book because we're about out of time. So tell us a little bit about your book
um,
that you have coming out, and then we'll go ahead and close the show.
all right. So first of all, thank you guys so much for just even having me. I know we
Thank
had
you.
some technical difficulties,
And
and that's
we'll
funny.
definitely we'll have to have you back. So this won't be the last time.
Man, that last click, and I was just like, da, 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 Um, but thank you guys so much for having me. Love to have these types of conversations. I'm an author of one of three books. You have
Congratulations.
understanding. Appreciate that. Understanding a man, empowering women with tools for lasting relationships. So that's
Oh,
available on Amazon and Audible. So you can even go to Audible and just listen to it for about 4 minutes or whatever. Even if you go to Audible, you can like test stuff. So
no,
just
no,
pull
no.
up
We're gonna
Elam.
buy. We're not testing. I mean, this is
Yeah, of
we need to
course.
buy. You need to hit
Yes.
that click button, put it
There
in
you
the
go.
shopping cart.
Well, the best place to buy is at my website, Elam B. King. All
All
right,
right. There we go.
because then all the funds come to me
Elam
at
And
B
that.
never
King.
forget
Okay.
it.
All right. So, but if you're an
ElamBKing.com.
Audible person, you can go to Amazon for Audible, but elambking.com, and you can find the Understanding a Man book for empowering women with tools for lasting relationships. My latest release is When His Soul Cries, which is a collaboration with the fearless storyteller men, with Donald Bell and Craig, and just listen, all the names is
These
probably
are
gonna
these are
get.
hardcover. You'll ship them
Yes,
to me.
hardcover.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
I'm gonna
And
go
so
tomorrow
you'll
and play
just
them. Make a note of the audio books.
yeah. So that one's I don't think it's uploaded to Amazon yet, but it's in the process because it just recently released. And
ElamBKing.com.
yeah,
Okay.
and then what's in the wind is it's in editing, so I'm super excited for Understanding a Man: Memoirs of a Father to His Son. That is my heart and soul. Me just having an opportunity of speaking with the young men. I probably say between the ages of 13 and 30, and myself along with 23 other men. So it's a total of 24 men. It's actually a combination of text and video.
Okay.
All right. That'll work. Perfect.
So you'll have an opportunity of reading a little bit, and then there's going to be a QR code, and then you'll be able to see video of the other men speaking.
Okay.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Man, we appreciate you. We appreciate what you've done for our show. We appreciate the knowledge that you have dropped on our listeners today. We're definitely going to have you back very soon, man. And we have a lot more to talk about since we just had 1 hour today.
You're
We're going
right.
to have another hour within the next couple of months or so and continue the dialogue and the conversation, Jimmy. And I guess before we close out, we have to have a brief word of prayer,
Right.
and then we will go ahead and close things out. If we could have everyone who is out there and in here to bow your heads
Bow
in
your
reverence.
heads. Know how we
There
do
we
it.
go. Absolutely. Dear Lord and gracious Father, we come before you this evening. Thank you for blessing us to give us another day, our health, our strength, and our faculties, Father. We thank you for blessing our families. We thank you for blessing our health. We thank you for blessing Elam King in his works and what he has been doing in relationships out there, in saving people's relationships and building families and saving people's lives, and really being an inspiration to people all over the world, Father. We ask you would continue to bless him in his books that he has released, the books that he is going to release, and everything that he's doing. Continue to push him, Father, beyond his comfort zone so he may continue to do your will on earth, Father. We thank you for this podcast. We thank you for allowing us to reach an audience out there, Father, who may not know that we are here, but understanding that we have a word to share. And Father, we ask that you would keep us focused on the things that you would have us to do, that we may be inspiration to those out there who need help, who need hope. In your precious name we pray, Father. Amen.
Amen.
I
And
am so
so,
mad that this video came up at the end. I don't know what it was.
Yes, sir.
That's
so
crazy.
everyone out there, we'll be back next week,
All
Wednesday, 8
right.
p.m. Central. So this is a place to come to be in the know. If you're not here, then you're not learning.